This video, dated February 26, 2014, is your quick start guide to the SMOTGO shop management website. I'm going to focus on the bare minimums here, just enough so that you can create your first invoice. The future videos will build from there, but I just want to get you to the point where you can get up, started, and invoicing. Let's start by creating a new account. We can click on the Create Account link down here or here. Let's use this one. And we'll go to the Create Account page. Here we'll put in, we'll just call this our demo company. And username will demo 2014. And we're going to use our Gmail account. And we agree to the terms. Click submit. And as long as that username is not taken, we'll be assigned that username. Now, you'll be emailed your temporary password. Right there, your new account. There's your username, there's your temporary password. Once you log in, you can change your password. Now you've also been logged in automatically when you created your account, so we can go ahead and click here to get started. The first thing I recommend doing is going over to your company information. Go ahead and edit your company information. Put in your address. If you have a website, you can put that in there. It'll print out on your invoices. You're going to need to have an email address in here. Let's just make up a phone number. We can maybe make this our main phone number. You can categorize your phone numbers. You can add as many of these as you want. And then we move on to our tax info. You can store your tax ID numbers here if you want. It's just for your records. You can set your tax rate on parts. Let's just say we have 5% on parts and 2% on labor. You want to keep any notes with your company, you can make those here. And your settings. We'll get into these later on. These have to do with your service reminders. You can add a logo to your invoices. You'll click here, you'll choose the file, and then you'll save all this by clicking OK. So you've set up your company information. You can add employees and technicians here. Again, we'll get into that more later. Just a pretty quick overview here. Print options would be the next thing. You have work requests, estimates, work orders, invoices, purchase orders, returns, communications that go out to customers, a quick quote, and there's different layouts and formats for each of these. The invoice, there's currently 4 choices, and there are 4 formats. So in order to pick the one you want, let's go ahead. By default, it uses all the original ones in PDF format, but let me go ahead and choose this one with the ink saver option. Now we're going to select the format, and we need to tell it if we want it to be in PDF, Excel, Word, or an image. Let's just go with the Word here. Click OK. So that's our basic setup to get started. So let's go over here to the home page. And to get started, we go under More. We can create a new work request. From here, if you have an appointment set up, which you don't just yet, So we'll go right down here to customer. Since we don't have any customers, we could go ahead and click this new icon here, or we could open up the list and then click the new icon here. And we're going to call this our first customer. Now all that's required is a last name. To keep your records better, you're going to want to put names, addresses, otherwise you won't be able to send out service reminders. If you want to keep track of who referred your customer, pricing matrix, there's an unlimited number of pricing matrix that you can set up, and again that's something we'll touch on later. At this point we could add their phone and email information. Let's just go ahead and add a phone number for them. Let's call it a home number, so we can create a new phone type of home. Click OK, and we'll give them that phone number. Let's put in that for their email address, and we'll get into this other information later. We're just trying to get our first invoice up and going. Click OK. So that created our first customer. Vehicles, this customer doesn't have any vehicles, as we can see here, so we'll go ahead and add a new vehicle. And again, all that's required here is tag number. We'll just put in tag number there. If you have the VIN number, you put it in here, it'll automatically decode the year, make, model, engine. Click OK. So we now have our first vehicle. Issues. These are all turned into jobs, so we'll call maybe an LOF, check brakes, and check tires. Click OK. And you can see that we've created our new invoice. Now we click on here, it's going to open up that invoice / estimate / work request, and it's going to display all the information about this. Down here, all this information is related to this invoice. Down here, this information is related to the items under these tabs. So here we have our jobs. All the issues that we typed in were broken up into 3 jobs. Down here we have the parts relating to these jobs. Now we use a workflow. We start out as a work request, and this has the jobs on it, so we can go ahead and print the work request. This goes out into the shop. The vehicle's checked out. The notes are made here about the work that needs to be done, and any extra notes here. Once the vehicle's checked out, then we go back and we write the estimate. So let's go ahead and start with this first job. Let's select that. Go down here. There are 2 ways to add parts to this job. We can look up parts in inventory, or we can add part directly to the invoice right here. Now since there are no parts in inventory at this time, we're going to go ahead and write them right into this invoice under this job. So let's just add an oil filter. And let's say one of those. Let's say it costs us $5. List is $7, and we sell it for $8. Now this calculated price over here, the site will calculate the price based on pricing matrix that you set up. You can set a pricing matrix that allows you to charge different prices to a customer, to their different vehicles, to their different locations. It's pretty much unlimited, the pricing structure that you can set up. Since there is no pricing structure set up at this point, we're just going to use this default sell price. So when I hit to that next field, you're going to see that it calculates it automatically to the $8 because that's our default price, and there's no pricing matrix set up. Taxable, since we have a tax rate in there, it's going to automatically default to yes. If you have a part that's not taxable, you just unclick that. So we're going to leave it clicked since we do charge tax on this part. We're going to go ahead and save that. And then we're going to add another part, and we'll call that oil. And just oil 1. Let's say cost 3, list for 4, we sell it for $5.50, and we need 6 of those. We'll just save that. So now we've got 2 parts on this job. Now let's go ahead and add these to inventory. So to eliminate double entry, we can just click this, click add to inventory. The site will go ahead and put all the information right into this new part form. If we want to set up any of this information, we can do that now. Let's just go over here to location and make a note about where we keep this in our physical location. So we keep it on shelf 1. Click OK. And that part's now in inventory. We can do the same for this one. Add to inventory. And this is in our bulk tank. So we know where everything's kept, so we try to find it. Click OK. Let's go ahead and add some labor. So click Add Labor. So we don't have any technicians set up yet, or we could just go here and select the technician. So we're going ahead and click here to add. And we'll call our first technician Joe Smith. And we're going to say Joe gets $25 an hour, and we bill $85 an hour. We're going to make sure we mark Joe as a technician. Click OK. And then we're going to put in a brief description here called LOF. It's a half hour. It already pre-populates with that Joe's labor rate. Click Save. And there we have Joe Smith, oil change. And we have the parts. Now let's say we want to save this job so that we can use it on the next time this customer comes in on another car. Go ahead here to More. And we're going to do Create Save Job. Now we can categorize it if we want, but let's just put a name here, LOF. What was it? Click OK. Now that save job was created. Now you can also make notes about this job. If we click on here, we can edit, and we can just say we can write anything we want in there. Save that. Now we want to update our save job because we've made some modifications to it. So you can see it now added the note. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Next I want to demonstrate how to use that save job. But before we do that, I want to go in here to the vehicle information and then edit the vehicle. And I got a VIN number here. We're going to copy and paste in there. And you're going to see the VIN was completely decoded by the website. Go ahead and click OK. The reason I wanted to get that in there first before I showed you the save jobs is because when you go under a save job, it will set up a filter for you automatically. Let's go ahead and select this job. Go ahead into Save Jobs, and you're going to see that it pre-populated our filter for us. Now, when we set up that LOF save job, we didn't have any of this information. So in order to find that save job, we're going to need to clear that out of there. Type in the name that we're looking for, and there it is. So now we have this save job here down in our save job list. Let's go ahead and add it to this current job. So click Add. You can see it's now 8641, just like this job, because it added the labor, it added the parts. Now you may have noticed there's two choices here, add to and copy over. Add to will just add this job on top of this job. So if you want to combine more than one saved job onto a job, you can just use this, and you'll see the price double because it now added the same labor and the same parts over again. Maybe you have two services, a tune-up service and a timing belt service, and you have them in different saved jobs. You can just dump those right into one saved job. Or if you put the wrong saved job here, or maybe you didn't mean to add those two, just click copy over current job, and that will erase all the old parts and labor and just copy the new parts and labor from this saved job. So once your estimate's done, you can change the status to an estimate. We use this workflow. It's a little easier to keep track of everything. If you know the odometer, you can go ahead and put that in there. Let's say this has got 80,000. Click go update. Now, if you want, you can actually send a link to this estimate to the customer. We can use saved messages. We'll just put the message of estimate. We'll go ahead and click OK, and that's going to send the owner of this vehicle a link. They can go online to see the estimate, or you can email the estimate directly to the customer. And there we have the link to the estimate. The customer can click on that. They can go to the SMOTGO Auto, which is the companion website, and we'll get into that later on. And there's their estimate. They can click on that, and they can read their estimate, see how much the estimate is. They can then approve the estimate. Maybe they make a little note. And then we go ahead and click OK. And that'll send a message to the email address you have set up in your company information. So let's go back here. And you can see that the estimate approval came in. They approved the estimate, and their message was go ahead with the LOF. So let's go back here to this one, and you can see that this was the attachment of the estimate. Let's go ahead and go back over to here. Now, once the customer approves the estimate, we change the status to a work order. Update that. And then we print out the work order. You could also print out the estimate if the customer was in-house. Here's the work order. And this is what goes out into the shop. And you'll see that the parts list down here and the location so the tech can find the parts. We usually highlight these with a highlighter, letting the technician know which jobs were purchased. After the work is completed, you can go back here, enter the correct mileage, change the status to an invoice, click update. We can print out the invoice for the customer. And if you remember, we did the setup. We chose a Word format for our invoice, but it can be printed out in a PDF as well. And then you print that out for the customer, and you'll see that this has the ink saver option, so it doesn't have those dark backgrounds. The dark background, I think, works a little better on a LaserJet, and this works a little better on an inkjet. Close that. And then the last thing we would do, go ahead and close out this. We go back to our main list of invoices. Once the customer's paid this, we can enter payment in this invoice. Here under the customer information is their ledger. Now if you want the payment to show up in the invoice, you put it in here first, and then it'll print. If you notice, the last invoice we printed did not have any payment information. Let's just go ahead and let's just create a payment type of Visa, and let's just put $100 in here. And if you want the payment to show on the invoice, you do have to make sure and select the invoice that you're applying it to. Click OK to save that. Go ahead and print that invoice again. And you'll see now that the payment information shows up on the invoice. Let's go ahead and close that. Let's go back to the main list by clicking closed. From here, we could change the status to delivered once the customers picked up the vehicle. At the end of the day, after we're sure that all the invoices are complete, we don't want to make any other changes, then we can process. Some people do it at the end of the day, week, month, just depends on what you're comfortable with. But once this process is done, you can't go back and make any changes to an invoice, so you may want to make sure that everything is the way you want it to be. When it is, go ahead and click Process Invoice. Now the invoice has been processed to history. You can access that invoice by going into the invoice history here. And there's our jobs. If you want a quick view of what was involved in this job, we can just hit Quick View. Gives us our parts, labor, the issue, the solution. From here, we could always jump over to the customer or the vehicle. You can also get to this history by going to the vehicle. So this is the vehicle page. So you select the vehicle here. Down here is the history. And again, we could print the history, we could email the history, we can open up this, we can go to the customer, we can stop the customer from having access on the companion site. But again, that's something we'll get into a little later. Well, that's the quick start guide. Again, that got you up and running, got you created your first invoice. There's a lot more that can be done with the site, and we'll be demonstrating that, but you've created your first invoice. If you have any questions, email us at info@smotgo.com. You can also use the link down here at the bottom of the site.